Hello, and welcome back to Conquering Finale. This will be the last video in the Repeats Redux category. And today is going to be fun. I'm going to look at how to deal with complex roadmaps in Finale, or repeat roadmaps in Finale. And the way I'm going to do this is you'll see I've got two files open up here, and the first one is just sort of blank as far as the repeats are concerned. All the music and the measures are the same and everything. In the second file, this is what we're going to try and recreate. And if I just zoom in here, you can kind of see some of the things that we're dealing with, plain repeats, first and second endings, DSalcoda's situation, a fine here. And even on the second page, this is where it gets even more complex, is that I have some double codas, D.S.S. Alcoda, double coda, and then even a DCal fine going all the way back to the beginning. So this is about as complex of a repeat structure as you'll probably see. So I figured I'd show you how to do this because there is some complexities to this that I want to help you out with. And I think if you watch me do this, you'll really get a grasp of how Finale handles all of these repeats. So without further ado, let's dive into this. This is probably going to take me a few minutes, so bear with me as we do this. But first thing we can do is very simply the first thing that exists is just the repeats in bars 3 and 4. So we can always go to create simple repeat, right click to do that, and that's all taken care of. The next thing to deal with is in bar 7 and 8. Now this is another simple repeat that we can create. However, in this one, I have this 4x marking, meaning that I want this repeat to sound 4 times. So we can do that with a text repeat, actually. If we go in here and create a new one, we can call this $x, and the pound sign I'm going to replace with number of times played, okay? Let's justify it right, not left, okay, and select. And as I said, we're going to play the section X number of times. So in this case, we're going to play it 4 times. So not only will Finale play it 4 times, but it will also replace that pound sign with the number 4. And the target here is going to be backwards, in this case, 1 measure. Now, with these text repeats, you don't have the option with that you would with the graphic repeats to repeat to the nearest forwards repeat bar. So in this case, this is an instance where you actually do need to use the backward target here. In this case, but going back 1 measure takes you from the end of measure 8 to the beginning of measure 7. All right, so this is set up, and as you'll see, that marking now says, over here, that marking says 4x, okay? Cancel, please. Hit the wrong button. The next thing we want to do is, let's see, we need a forward repeat in bar 9. That's easy. We can just do that here. Create forward repeat. And we need a first and second ending in bars 12 and 13, which is easy enough in the contextual menu. We can select 12. Remember that the bar that you select is the bar that goes under the first ending. Create first and second ending, and that's all set up for you. And next thing we're going to do is we need a forward repeat in bar 14. So we can do that easily here. And I'm literally just following the sort of what's going on here. I'm also following a list of instructions I have for myself, so I'll make sure I don't miss anything. Let's see. In bar 17, we're going to create an ending because if you look closely at what I have in the done file, there we go. I have first and third ending, second ending, and there's 2 repeats here. So we're going to duplicate that over here. So in bar 17, I'm going to create an ending. We can do that with the contextual menu. Actually, no, we need to do that here. And we'll create an ending. And what we're going to do with this ending is call it 1, 3, space 3. You need that space in there. And the target is next ending and create backward repeat bar. Now we have the first and third ending. In bar 18, we're going to create another ending with another backward repeat, so we can do that ending thing again. Select, and this is going to be ending 2 with a backward repeat, right? And of course, these backward repeats by default will have the nearest forward repeat as its target. So what we're doing is essentially going 14, 15, 16, 17, 14, 15, 16, 18, 14, 15, 16, 19. So we need, I think, a fourth ending in bar 19. That's correct. And so we'll go into the repeat tool, and in bar 19, we'll create another ending. Select, and this will be ending number 4, and without a backwards repeat bar this time. So all we're doing is just making a new ending, and now we have ending number 4. All right, so then the next piece of this, if we zoom out a little bit, is a whole Coda system here, a whole DSalcoda system here, where we have the Coda mid system, we have the Coda marking, the DSalcoda, and the 2 Coda marking in 22. And the Segno sign, by the way, is all the way up here in 14. I'll deal with this Fine sign a little bit later, but I'm just dealing with the first page. That Fine sign is actually related to what's happening on the next page. And for these Coda systems, as I mentioned in a video a couple videos ago, the easiest way to do this is to use the plugin. So you want to select the measure that the Coda system begins in, and go to Plugins, Measures, Create Coda System. And here it will nicely have this little thing for you to fill out. And so what we're going to do is check all of these options. We're going to make it a DSalcoda. And let's see, for the Create 2 Coda measure, that should go in bar 22. And we are going to create the Segno sign here, so we'll check that one as well. And that will go into bar 14. All right, and we click OK. And it does that all for us all at once, which is really nice. And everything looks pretty good. The Segno sign might be just a little bit too close to that bracket, so we can adjust that. And so far, so good. So Finale will, follow this roadmap perfectly well. As you know, the basic rule of music is when you take a DS, the object is that you don't take the endings a second time through. So by default, Finale will set this up correctly. So when we take the DSalcoda from bar 30 to bar 14, because these endings are only applying to the first, second, and third time through this music, it really will only play these the first, second, and third time. When you go back, it's already Finale considers that it's already played the first, second, and third time. So when you go back, it's actually the fifth time through, or you're going to the fifth ending essentially. Which, with these endings here, the fourth, fifth, sixth doesn't matter. You're skipping all these endings, and you'll end up in bar 19 anyway. So Finale, by default, will handle that sort of rule of repeats correctly. So we're going back to the DS and skipping all of these repeats and going straight to the last ending. And then, of course, the 2 Coda will take you to bar 31, skipping over all of this stuff. So this is all set up correctly, all right? So that's, so far so good. We've got the first page. Where it gets a little bit more complex is on the second page. And you can see we've got some stuff with like the double Segno signs and the 2 Codas. We've got some other repeats and other endings here to deal with. So let's start figuring that out. Now, with these double Codas, it's kind of impossible to use that automatic Coda plugin, because that Coda plugin will only really support a single Segno sign and a single Coda sign. And since we already have that in the file, doing that again will definitely confuse the roadmap, because you'll get a DSalcoda, and Finale's going to want to go back. It's not going to know to go back to this Segno sign or the previous one. So you can sort of use the plugin in a certain way, which I'll show you. But generally speaking, we do need to create these a little bit more manually. So we'll go ahead and do that. So the first thing we're going to do is create this double Segno sign in bar 35. And that's easy enough. We'll just go into the repeat selection dialog box. And the best way to do this is to just choose the Segno sign and duplicate it, and then edit it. And it's the % sign. So you can actually just type the % sign, which is Shift 5, to get a second % sign there. And that % sign in the Maestro font will turn into that Segno sign, of course. And the other thing is to, while you're here, take note, actually when you select it here, take note of the text repeat ID. And I'm actually writing this down because I didn't do that before. It's text ID 14, because the D.S.S. Alcoda is going to have to reference this ID. So just take note of this. It's number 14. And of course, this is a mark, so we just select the never jump, and we should be good to go. Now we have our double Segno sign. And then moving forward here, in bars 37 and 38, we have a simple repeat. And so we can do that with the right click here. However, getting ahead here, we do have to make sure that we're dealing with this DSS Alcoda a little bit differently here. If you can see in the done file here, I have this instruction to take all repeats. So again, Finale will normally ignore the repeats the second time through unless you do some specific things. And this is one of the first things you have to do. Right click this or double click this handle in bar 38 to pull up the backward repeat bar assignment dialog box, and play selection 2 times is still correct, but what we want to do is reset on repeat action. And what this does is it ignores that rule of music where you would skip the repeats on the Segno or on the DS or whatever. So when you come back to this repeat, it's going to think that it's the first time and it will take the repeat. Otherwise, as I mentioned, when you get to it, Finale considers it the third time through, and then it's only playing it 2 times, so it would just continue on. It wouldn't actually repeat. It wouldn't actually do the repeat action. So it's important to reset the repeat action on this repeat. All right. So we've got that. We need a forward repeat bar in bar 39. We don't have to deal with resetting on these types of things because the forward repeat bar is just a marking. There's actually no definition to it. We need a first, second, and third ending in bar 41 and 42. So let's do this way with an ending. And yes. Now this is something that gets a little bit tricky because again with the take all repeats, basically what you're doing is here is you're going 1 time through, 2 times through, 3 times through to the 4th ending. And then what Finale has to consider, or what you have to consider, and for Finale to calculate, is that when you come back here, if you want to be able to take these repeats, this is actually not only the first through the 3rd time through, it's also the 5th, 6th, and 7th time through. So we have to list all of those numbers in this ending number here field here. So what I would do is do 1 through 3, comma, space, 5 through 7. So hopefully that makes sense. We actually play 39 through 42 6 times, right? Now we don't want to list 1, 2, 3, 5, 6, 7. Probably what we want to do is just keep the 1, 2, 3 listed here. So what you could do here in the alt is make an alternate text so that you don't see 1, 2, 3, 5, 6, 7. What you see is just 1, 2, 3. So we'll just type 1, comma, 2, comma, 3, period. And again, with these alternate texts, no matter what the situation is here, this is the alternate text that's going to show. All right, target is next ending. We're going to create a backwards repeat, which is all good. In bar 43, we're going to create another ending. And this time, we don't need to deal necessarily, we don't need to call this 4 and 8 with these sort of back endings that don't have a repeat action. Really, we just need to put in a number there. If we put in 4, it's going to show 4, and we don't need to really deal with anything. Again, there's no jump action, so you don't have to tell Finale to play this the 4th and 8th time. It's going to play it the 4th and 8th time no matter what. And do not create a backwards repeat bar, and that should be good to go. How are we doing so far? Pretty good. So the next thing we need is in 57. So here's what I was talking about. You can use the Coda System plugin without actually inserting any of the text repeats. So if I select bar 57 here and go to the plugin and go to measures and go to create Coda System, what I can the reason that I'm going to do this is because the splitting of the system is really the tricky thing to deal with manually. So, but we can just simply uncheck everything, put none here, no Segno sign or whatever. I mean, it's unchecked when I have none here anyway. So just doing this will split the system for me, and it won't add any of the text, which is fine because I need to add them manually anyway. But the important thing is that I have the system split, which is a difficult thing to do without the plugin. So this is all set up, ready to go. And now we have to create these crazy D.S.S. Alcodas and all that other stuff. So let's start with bar 56. We'll create the D.S.S. Alcoda. And oops, we need to be in the repeat tool. And again, we're just going to create a new one, or actually I can just duplicate this DSalcoda, edit it, and call this D.S.S. Alcoda. and right justification, all good. And then select this, and basically what we want to do is this will be always jump, and it will be the target ID, text repeat ID. Now this is where it's important to remember that ID from the double Segno sign, because now we're going back to the double DSS here, right? So, and I said that was ID 14, so this is where we have to put in text repeat ID 14. And that should do it. And now we have the DSalcoda. And then what I'm going to do is actually move this up a little bit. And I'm going to create another take all repeats marking here. And now this is going to be totally graphic. This is not going to have any action. So what I can just do is type take all repeats in parentheses. And the only thing I'm going to do here is change the font a little bit so I can set the font here differently. I'm not going to bold it, but I am going to italicize it. And so that we have something that looks like that. And we'll select this. And as I said, this will have no action, so we're just going to create it as a mark, right? And click OK. I could have just oh, you know what I forgot to do? I should have right justified it. Edit repeat definition. Right justified. There we go. That fixes that. And you know, I actually could have done that as an expression too, but you know, since I'm working with a repeats tool, might as well do it there. And we can just kind of drag these nicely in place so that they look good. And that's set to go. The DSalcoda has the correct jump back to here. Let's see, where are we? We need the double coda mark in bar 57. All right, so let's do this and create a double coda. Again, best thing to do is just duplicate the one that exists here, edit it, and this little character for the coda marking is a little bit tricky. I don't even know how to type that, but the easy thing to do is just select it, copy, and then paste it so you have two of them in a row. And left justify is great. Select OK, and this is going to be a mark. Now again, this is another ID that we have to take note of. So this is ID 17. And again, this is a mark, so just never jump mark. OK. And of course, we need that little coda text. And this we don't have to duplicate. It's the same text. It's going to be a mark. It doesn't matter. So just select that one that you created from before. Select. It's a mark again. And of course, we have to move it. There we go. So we're getting there. We're almost there. We need the two coda marking, which is going to be in bar 48. So let's do that. Now, in this case, we actually don't need to create a second two coda hashtag marking here. We can use the same one because the pound sign will replace with the ID. Now, in this case, I'm going to replace it with ID 17, and the ID 17 actually has the two coda markings there already. So we actually don't need to create one that says hashtag. In fact, if we did that, it would double this, so we'd actually get 4 of them, which would be incorrect. So we can actually use the same marking here and select that. And now this is going to be a jump on pass 2 again. And let's see, use target ID. And what did I say? 17, I think. Yep. And that should do it. Yep. And we're almost there. We're so close. The last thing I'm going to do is this DSalcoda. So let's put that. Yep. Let's put the DSalcoda here. DSalcoda, select, and the target for this, this will be an always jump because we're only ever going to get to this once. The target will be actually a measure number, and we'll go back to the beginning. So measure number 1, and that's all you need for this. So we've got the DSalcoda, so we get through all of this, and then we get to the DSalcoda. It goes back to the beginning, and my fine marking is in bar 15. So now this is fun. So we're going to create a fine marking here. And this is going to be a stop on pass action. However, this is where it gets a little tricky because you actually have to calculate exactly how many times you're going to get to bar 15. So if you think about it, we go through it once, bar 15, we go back to bar 15 in the second ending and then the third ending, right? And then we go to the DSalcoda which takes us back here, and then we go through this again, and then we get here again. Anyway, we get we get to bar 15 several times, and I've already calculated this, and I believe it's pass 6 that we're going to get to bar 15. So this this stop on pass has to be very carefully calculated, otherwise it won't stop in the right place. So I believe that pass 6 is correct. And voila, I think we are correct. So crossing my fingers that we set this up right. Let's just see if we can play this back real quick and see if it actually works. I'm crossing my fingers, otherwise I'm going to have to redo this whole video. Here we go. Take the repeat, bar 5, repeat 4 times, 2, 3, 4, 9. First ending, second ending, 14, first ending, to the second ending and repeat to 14. Yep. Third ending, and then it's going to go to the fourth ending. Awesome, so far so good, and we're going to keep going. Now we're going to take the DS back to 14 right here. There it is. Skip all the endings. Yep. And then to a coda. Awesome, so far so good. Repeat. Good. First ending, second ending, third ending. Now we'll skip to the fourth ending this time. There it is. All right, so far so good. And then we're going to take this D.S.S from end of 56 all the way back to 35. Yep, and hopefully take all the repeats this time. Yep. So we should get 4 endings here. 1, 2, 3, and 4. Yep. And then we're going to take the double coda here. Yep, and then the DC. Yep. And again, we're skipping all the repeats this time through, right? Because we're not resetting the action, and we should end on 15. Oh, beautiful. It worked perfectly. So yeah, that is about as complex a roadmap as you could ever create in Finale, and that is a sort of a long walkthrough to show you how to do that. Again, it's really about calculating the targets correctly, calculating the number of passes, exactly how many times everything is going to get played, and if you do it right, you will succeed in this endeavor. Now, there is one other thing in the repeat tool that I haven't mentioned so far, and when it comes to these complex roadmaps, this is actually a tool that can be really handy. In the repeat menu, there's this option called check repeats, and when you select this, it pulls up this window, which is amazing. It's literally the roadmap. It will tell you exactly which bars get played in which order. So if you create something complex like this, you can always double check that you've correctly done it. You didn't actually need to play through the whole file like I just did. You can see it goes to bar 1 through 4, and then it goes to, what does that say, 3 through 8, and then back to 7 to 8, 7 to 8, 7 to 8, 7 to 12, and then back to 9 to 11. So you can sort of see the exact roadmap that you've just created with all of these repeats. It's a really handy tool, and I think you can actually just copy and paste this into a text file if you really wanted to. So that's the check repeats little utility, which is really handy when you're doing something like this. Now, one final little tip. I've mentioned several times throughout this that sometimes it can be better to use expressions for some of these repeat markings, and I've sort of recreated this complex structure, this complex roadmap, in a couple cases where I've used expressions instead of the repeat markings. And you'll see at the bottom of the page here, I've created this DS with a Segno symbol a la Coda with a Coda symbol. This is impossible to do with a repeat tool because you can only use one pound sign to replace a symbol with, and you can't actually mix fonts either, so it's sort of impossible to do this with a repeat tool. So I did this with the expression tool, and I'll just double click this to show you what it looks like in the editor. It's literally these markings, and even what I did and what you can do here is, this is size 18, whereas a normal Segno sign would be size 24. So you can actually make these slightly smaller, which sometimes makes sense when you're listing it in a line like this. offsets. There is some baseline offsets that you have to deal with, and sometimes with these things, but that's a general gist of it. Is that I've just created these as expressions. The trick to this is that in order to get everything to play back correctly, still you kind of have to have these blank text repeat or text text repeat things in here that have the playback functionality, because the expressions can't actually have the repeat playback functionality. So you can see there's a handle here in the repeat tool, and if I go into edit repeat definition, it's simply a blank character here in the repeat designer. But the assignment for it, the repeat assignment dialog box, has all of the correct information as far as the action is concerned. So it's an always jump going to repeat ID 8, which is that DS or that Segno marking here in bar 14, right? I did the same thing over here where I created this little guy all in one piece. So actually this is sort of 3 different types of fonts in one piece. You've got the boldface font for the DSalcoda, the Maestro font 18 for these markings, and then the normal text italicized here. And this is all one, oops, that's in the repeat marking. This is all in one expression. You can see I've sort of created a whole thing here. And actually, this is the one where the baseline shifts are kind of important to get right. But you always have those issues when you're mixing the music font with the text fonts, all right? And again, the same thing applies when you have this. You do have to have a blank expression here that has the assignments set up correctly, so they always jump to the appropriate text repeat ID. But that's how you would do that. Actually, that's how you have to do that if you wanted a symbol that looked like this, where you have the text and the symbols together in the same line. All right, so I made it through. Believe it or not, this was actually the first take I did of this, so I'm very proud of that. We did it all in one shot. It didn't take an hour and a half, but we did pretty good. So that's it for the Repeats Redux section. It's been a long process to kind of teach you guys this. The Repeats tool is it is something to be desired in some cases. So hopefully this has helped. Hopefully I've been able to shed some light, particularly when it comes to the playback and the targets and the when to jump and all that stuff. It can get a little confusing. So hopefully this has helped. All right, so thanks for watching. This is the end of the Repeats Redux, I think, unless I can think of something else to come up with at a later date. That will be it. So hopefully I'll have some more categories coming up soon. So once again, thanks for watching. I appreciate it. Don't forget to subscribe, and I will see you soon on the next video.